I don't know why TERFs, I don't know why JK Rowling, etc. is fighting so hard to make out women to just be about biology. Like, it's a part of your identity. It's a part of who you are. And these people work so hard to take that away from you and define you and reduce you to reproductive organs. Let me pull up that tweet where I got like called heterophobic because it's so funny. It was about Asmongold's video, like the video that I made, like about Asmongold, and like talking about my personal experiences and having Fenry talk about his personal experience. A whole nothing burger for something super easy to understand. As an adult, leave kids alone. It's that simple. You are so narcissistic with your rhetoric. Why do you feel that just because you wear a self-proclaimed trans kid, apparently? As for the rest of this vid, it just evolved into heterophobic rants. You really thought you had something here, but all you did was continue to prove why to keep kids the away from people like you. Not even saying trans people, just crazy word who opt into the trans community. Nobody wants to associate with you. You're making it worse for normal trans people who just want to live their lives. I'm sorry for not being one of the good ones. I'm sorry that I'm like speaking out for trans rights and that I have like so many studies back me up, you know? I made like a whole video talking about how gender affirming care for trans kids is beneficial for their mental health, and it should be more accessible to get there, because like forcing trans kids to go through the wrong puberty, by which I mean the puberty that doesn't align with their gender identity, it causes a lot of dysphoria, it causes a lot of distress, and you need like to have some form of guidance, etc. Like, I'm not the one touching kids, that's what you do. Like, that is what your group is doing, that is what you want to lower the age of consent, you advocate for child marriage, that is what you are going after, but you're using this like weird rhetoric that we are going after the kids because we care about like trans kids, because we want them to live and not end their life, and we want them to have like a happy life instead of being depressed and disassociate. And like, it's so funny to call this like heterophobic when I'm talking about like how society pushes boys and girls into specific gender roles that are extremely unnecessary just to control society, just to keep everyone trapped in their little box, not giving them the opportunity to like break free from that, stand out, etc. It's so interesting to me that you think that is normal, that like me challenging the cishet normative, this like weird society that is like being pushed onto literally everyone by people who are cis straight white men in positions of power who want to control everyone, that you think that that is my attack on anyone who is straight. Like, I don't mind if you're straight, I don't mind if you want to express yourself a certain way, but your problem is like anyone who breaks free from that. If you have a son who wants to dress up as Elsa for Halloween and you beat them up, the criticism of that is not heterophobic. Me saying, hey, you shouldn't do that, that is insane. It is insane to force kids into specific gender roles because you want them to grow up a certain way. You push this idea of what a man, what a woman has to look, sound, and act like, what they have to like, what they have to enjoy, what is just for them. And everything of this other gender is like a whole different species. And it's literally just like this divide and conquer in order to control men and women. Anyone who's not going to fit into this binary is going to suffer because you literally hold on to this weird concept, this weird social construct that is literally designed to just oppress you, distract you from other things, and it's making you way more unhappy and more miserable. Like, it's so unnecessary that you're not freely able to express yourself. That is not heterophobic. You're just delusional. What I'm saying is a normal take. I am not making it worse for other trans people because you think that the trans people who are fine, who are okay, are the same ones who fulfill like your weird gender politics. It's like, oh, I respect trans women, but they need to know that they're actually men. I'm going to call a trans woman a she, but like, I'm not going to do that to you because you don't deserve that. And it's like, yeah, you're probably going to say that a gay man who doesn't agree with you deserves to be called the F slur. Like, that is your logic. If you don't do exactly what I want you to do, you don't deserve any human decency. I can dehumanize you, I can abuse you, etc. Everything goes. Nothing is off the limits. That is like conditional support for the LGBTQ community, which is actually not supporting us. You are also going to be like, well, I don't mind trans people, but I just don't want to see them in movies. I don't think they have like a space in video games. I don't want them to voice a character because like I need to hear that trans voice. That is who you are. And I'm not saying you individually, but that is your side of the spectrum. That is like your side of history has been repeating these things countless times. And me pointing that out is not heterophobic, just as me pointing out that, hey, actually the government is not funding Muslims to replace white people and Christianity. If I call that out and if I call that white supremacy, you know, that's not being racist towards white people. If I go ahead and I call out TERFs who are saying extremely bigoted things and people come along and they're like, you act like you're pro-woman, but anytime a woman disagrees with you, you're evil and like you're doing all these things and insulting them and sending your cult following after them. And it's like, no, like if I point out the transphobia of cis women, it's the following. If someone tells me, for example, oh, I have nothing against trans people. I just don't want them in women's sports and I don't want them invading women's spaces and going into bathrooms. It is safe to assume that you don't view trans women as women. It is also safe to assume that what you're basically saying is that trans women are a danger to cis women. In reality, we know that if trans women go into men's spaces, they're being forced into going into restrooms that do not match their gender expression, how they are being perceived, you know, their gender identity, etc. They are more likely of getting abused. They are 4 times as likely. Transgender people 16 plus are victimized over 4 times more often than cisgender people. Transgender women and men had higher rates of violent victimization than cisgender women and men. 1 in 4 transgender women who were victimized thought the incident was a hate crime compared to less than 1 in 10 cisgender women. 2017 to 2018 transgender households had higher rates of property victimization. About half of all violent victimizations were not reported to police. Transgender people were less likely as cisgender people to report violence to police. We live in a world where a trans woman gets her arms and legs broken, tossed into a river to drown, and people are cheering for that. That is the world that we live in. It's so insane to me to like push this idea that like trans people are abusers when in reality most of the time we're just victims of the abuse of cis people, and then forcing us to go into spaces where we are actively being harmed. We are pushed into situations where we are getting into danger because you are holding on to your ignorant beliefs. That is transphobic. That is awful. And I call these things out. And when a woman says that, if a cis woman says that, I'm still going to call you transphobic because you're transphobic if you want trans women to go into men's spaces where they are going to get abused. It's literally the same rhetoric that was used against women of color. White women were saying that they don't view black women as women, so they don't deserve to go into women's restrooms. We've already been through that. It's disgusting. It's awful. If I call these things out, that is not me being anti-woman. In reality, what I'm calling out is that these women go after trans women because it's so much easier to punch down than it is to go after a system that is designed to oppress you. It is so much easier to go after a minority, a small minority, and be boosted by the system that oppresses you, abuses you in order to abuse you further. It's the same with like the UK court ruling that a woman is defined through her biology. It's just taking away womanhood and making it out to be like something predetermined. You're being born with a so you have to be a woman. These are the roles that you have to fulfill. This is what it's leading up to. This is where it already was like 50, 60 years ago. It's not even that far away where that was like the understanding that if you have certain reproductive organs, this is your role. This is how you fit in society. That is a bad thing. If I call these things out, I am backed by the facts. I am backed by historical events. I'm also backed by mine and others' life experience, by the data. What these women are backed by is just the fear mongering, the Stockholm syndrome that comes when you are being indoctrinated by your abuser and, you know, have them tell you that, like, look, we are just protecting women from these men while they are the ones who are being sued for SA, etc. You know, you see that with the White House. You see that with like the Trump admin, where so many people have done horrible things to women and children, and they're being protected by the ones who are going after trans people. Why is that? And if I call that out, that's not me being anti-woman and misogynistic. That is literally me pointing out the flaws in their logic, calling that behavior out, and trying to explain why they are wrong, why they don't understand what is happening. I'm not mansplaining womanhood to them. I'm not taking that away. I'm trying to prevent them from throwing away everything that feminism has worked towards. And it's so insane. It's so insane. Like, I made a tweet. It was like a response to a VTuber being transphobic. As a woman, I do not feel comfortable with men pretending to be women coming into my spaces. The only place for you is the psych ward. The problem is, like, cis men who are going to abuse you in your spaces are not pretending to be women. Trans women are not pretending to be women. We are doing things that align with our gender identity. If a guy puts on a dress and now wants to gain access to women's spaces, that is a dude pretending to be a woman to gain access to that. It is a man trying to put on a costume in order to go in there. But like trans women, our gender identity aligns with that of a woman. So we do things that affirm our gender identity. And in reality, we live in a society that treats trans women way worse than abusers, than like cis men going into women's spaces to abuse women. So I replied with, transphobic women are so pathetic. Like, how do you experience the constant misogyny from men and then weaponize it against others? And someone replied with, only pathetic person I see here is you. People like you act like all men are misogynistic, and they are not. In fact, by you doing that, you are committing misandry yourself. Also, it is valid for a real biological female to feel unsafe around a person who still possesses male anatomy. First of all, not every man is misogynistic, but a lot of men are, and a lot of men don't realize that what they are saying is misogynistic, because there's a level of misogyny that is so normalized, you can't really realize it unless you are part of the group that is experiencing the misogyny, that is experiencing the effects of it. And I think that's where like the problem is coming from when, you know, you call out someone for being misogynistic and they get like really defensive and they're just like saying, oh, you call everyone a misogynist. That is not misandry. I'm not hating men for being men. I'm hating the system, and I'm hating how the system is designed in order to like push and normalize certain things. You know how like a certain level of like Islamophobia is just like normalized, especially when you look at like video games, for example. Also, it is valid for real biological female. Calling women female is such an ick. Like reducing womanhood to just reproductive organs and like gametes, etc. is so gross. It's such an ick. To feel unsafe around a person who still possesses male anatomy. So it is valid for a woman to feel unsafe around men. But you're also claiming that that is misandry, and that is like not all men. It's not all men. So I was like, why do women feel unsafe around men? You make it seem as if all women are afraid of men, which is entirely untrue. It's like, that's literally what you said though. I respect women, real women. Why should they have to deal with biological men posing as a woman in their space, invading their sports? It's unfair to real women. And it makes me sad to see this happening. I was like, I don't think you respect women if you reduce us to reproductive organs. Yes, I'm including myself. Not all women cross the street whenever they see a group of strange men coming towards them at night, but a lot of us do. And it's not because they are pretending to be women by wearing a dress. You're not taking any accountability for cis men. You're just projecting that onto trans women who are women. Like, just because, I don't know, you have XY chromosomes, that doesn't mean that you're not a woman. Intersex women also exist, you know? And if you've ever spoken to trans people, to trans women, and to women in general, outside of just Twitter and your manosphere, etc., you're white supremacists and and misogynistic, transphobic communities, like once you break free from that and talk to real people, you're going to realize that the problems a lot of cis women have are not with trans women, but with cis men. And then you're going to get defensive because now you are included in that demographic. But you think that all trans women are problematic, but the problematic cis men who are the reason why you think that all trans women are problematic, they get a pass. And when I call this out, even if you're a woman saying these things, if I call that out, if I call you a TERF, because, you know, that's what a lot of you label yourself as anyway, that is not invalidating a woman, and I should like respect other women, and I should respect their opinion if they feel unsafe. The problem is like their fear is based on a different problem. The fear is unreasonable, which is why it's transphobic. You are scared, you're terrified of men, of cis men walking into women's spaces because you know they're going in there to do bad things. That is what you're scared of, which is reasonable. But then you don't hold these people accountable, and instead you're taking this fear, projecting it onto another demographic who literally just wants to live their life, who literally just wants to be included, who literally, like, trans women just want to be seen as women, trans men just want to be seen as men. Like, if you're non-binary, you should be able to freely express yourself without people shoving you into a box, etc. Like, this freedom is like what we are fighting for. This inclusion is what we are fighting for. But you're just taking the system's problems and you're projecting them onto us. And you say that like, oh, because I'm talking about these things, because I'm standing up for trans rights, etc., I'm actually the problem because I make other trans people, the normal trans people, the good trans people, I'm making them look bad. And that is why we deserve our rights getting taken away. If gay people wouldn't support trans rights, then the conservative cis white man wouldn't have to take away gay marriage. At the end of the day, it always boils down to the sensitive male patriarchy. Yeah, you're literally being inclusive. They're trying to gatekeep womanhood because of trauma that has turned into hate. Yeah, just people being like gaslit into believing that like the oppressor is actually like the good one. The abuser is actually the good one. You know, if you would just keep your head down, if you would just like submit and do what the oppressors are telling you, then you wouldn't have to be punished. Can't remember who said this, but not all men, but usually men. Yeah, I'm not the problem, so no man is. Ignoring SA crime statistics completely. Yeah. Men are also a danger to other men. That's like really problematic. Like maybe we should like fix that instead of, you know, pushing this idea that men and women are entirely different species. I hate when they reduce people's gender to sex. It's so gross. Yeah, it's just about like our reproductive role. Being a woman is all about procreating and starting a family, taking care of the offspring. You're not allowed to break free from that. And then they hate on feminism. They're like, oh, feminism is just shoving men down at this point. Misandry is literally like heterophobia. Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm talking about that. It's so cringe. As a straight passing white woman, girl, I do not care what is in someone's pants in the bathroom. Just move so I can pee. You go into the women's restroom. You stand in line for like 2 minutes. You go into the bathroom. You pee. You do your stuff. You go outside. You wash your hands. You leave. That is a normal situation in the bathroom. If men want to do bad things, if men want to abuse women in women's restrooms, they're going to go in there and they're going to do bad things. They're not going to be like turned off by the women's sign, because like the sign only women has never stopped cis man, but it's stopping trans women from going into spaces where they are less likely of being abused. And it also pushes this hysteria that every cis woman who doesn't look exactly how a woman should look like they are also going to be a victim of transphobic men and women. Transphobia hurts all women. It hurts all men. But society, the people in positions of power, the media, etc., push this lie that this is actually not the case. And if trans people would just like stop existing, if we would disappear, then every issue that you have would be resolved. But in reality, that's not the case. I don't know why TERFs, I don't know why JK Rowling, etc., is fighting so hard to make out women to just be about reproductive organs, to make them out to be about biology, taking away the womanhood, taking away something that you can be proud of, something that you can control, something like it's a part of your identity. It's a part of who you are. And these people work so hard to take that away from you and define you and reduce you to reproductive organs. It's so gross. I don't understand how JK Rowling is pushing that. Conformity is not equality. That's the problem with those people. Yeah, they just want to have like a strict line. All men have to do this. All men have to be masculine. All women have to be feminine. If you have something about you that is not masculine or feminine, etc., like you are something other, you are going to be ostracized. You're going to be a target. You're going to get bullied for it. And then it just like pushes this idea that you have to fit in with society by doing these things, and it's making you miserable. It's causing you to develop depression, anxieties, isolation, etc. Like you're going to have a miserable life. Why can't they realize that cis men abusing trans rights to harass women means they are doing something wrong and not that we shouldn't exist? Yeah, it's the same with like, why do you want to normalize like genital expressions? This rhetoric is crazy to me. Also, oh my god, I was tweeting unpopular opinion, but supporting LGBTQ plus rights as a VTuber shouldn't be political. Stating your support for marginalized groups is only a problem if you've created a community full of right-wingers who you don't want to alienate. And that's quite telling. That was like one of the replies here. I bet one of Nyao's ulterior motives is to pressure all VTubers into adding pronouns to their bio. It's like, yeah, my ulterior motive is to have all VTubers add their pronouns to their bio to make it easier to address them without asking. You got me? Oh no. Oh no. You got me. Hey, VTubers. You should add your pronouns to your bio so people know how to refer to you. That's making things a lot easier. Also my other ulterior motive is to get Twitch to make pronouns in chat mandatory and normal, etc. Because like a lot of extensions, they don't work with the OBS stream chat, so I can't see it. I can see it through like stream elements in the chat here. I cannot see it in the Twitch chat itself. My ulterior motive is to get pronouns in Twitch chat.